And Selena for bringing me here. It was Roster who called me here in the beginning, and yeah, I was very lucky to do the session so early. I'm not a very familiar face here in USEF. I've come here very rarely. I've only attended a group session and probably a common app session. In a way, USEF has been very helpful for me. I'll make a very short presentation today. Like thousands of students, I too applied to college. I wanted to study in the US, and I applied to college, and by some sheer fortune, I got accepted into a good college. And if there's anyone of you who is looking for tips and shortcuts, maybe I don't have any. Maybe I'm not the person for that, because I got into one college, and that doesn't make me a college admission expert. But what I do is I'll share my experience, and hopefully it will give you some pointers on your future plans. There is very little I have to say on my part, but there is a lot you can ask from me. I'll make a very short presentation, and I'll devote much of my time to take questions. I will take as much questions as possible. So shall we begin? Yeah, the college I'm going to is called Harvard. This is the college I'm going to. As I said, I'll make a very short presentation, and I've divided my presentation into three sections. First, I'll talk about me, my works. Second, I'll talk about my application, and third, I'll talk about the suggestions which I may be able to give to you. About me. My name is Pradeep. I'm still doing high school. I study in Trinity College. I have my exams next week. And while most of the students wait until the end of year, second year, to begin application, I took an early shot. And it worked. Well, after my SLC, I found myself, after I escaped the pressure which people put on 10th graders, I found myself very free to pursue my interests. And then I'm one of the most restless person you'll ever see. I just can't stay idle. I just keep moving. I love working, and I want to work as much as possible. And so in the last 2 years, I found myself being involved in a lot of things, and many of them would not have been possible without Smart Club. And how many of you have any idea about Smart Club? Okay, a few. Thank you very much. Smart Club is a place where young people like us, we meet together, we discuss and we debate about things. And there's a very exceptional, very fantastic place. It's a motivational place. I've made some exceptional people there. I made a great network of friends there. And through Smart Club, I've developed valuable social skills in debates, in public speaking, in logic building, and a lot of things. And after I acquired my important fundamental social skills through Smart Club, I was later involved with the United Nations, with UNICEF, and with ANSEP, and many other things. I was involved with ANSEP for nearly a year because the work they were doing is really great. Since I'll not be staying here any longer, just for 3 months, I couldn't continue working with them, and I'm just helping with new recruitment process with ANSEP. In the last 2 years, I got involved in many things, many organizations, and talking about all of them will take a lot of time. So yeah, my academics, I did A-levels, and what A-levels offers apart from other course of SSCB here is that we can take subjects which we love, which we enjoy. And when you study and work on subjects which you passionately care about, getting good grades is not a problem. So I've always tried to maintain consistent grades all the time. But I'm not, as I did say, I'm a very restless person. I'm not a person to be, I can't just follow syllabus. I just keep doing big things. And right from this, after I joined my high school, I set out to explore further ideas about the thing I care passionately about. I started learning and doing bigger things. And then I was doing this astrophysical simulations, these things, molecular simulations, everything. And a lot of things. And well, yeah, and because of my scientific skills and social exposure, I got many international opportunities. One of them is participation in International Physics Olympiad. I went there last year and I made some amazing friends, the best of the world. And I got to experience life outside Nepal for a change. And yeah, I've taken part in many international innovation summits. I debate a lot. Me and my friends have been into many policy debates international level. And I spend a lot of my time on computers. I code a lot. But I don't create websites or design Android applications. I work on things which I find more fascinating, like artificial intelligence, like computer vision, like computational sciences. These things excite me and I work on them. Yeah, and when I'm not doing anything, I play flute or I skate a little. But even if when I'm doing nothing, I try to learn. I try to learn as much as possible. I read big books, I learn some new language. I just keep myself moving all the time. I have to stay idle. And yeah, when I have friends and when I have time, I travel. Recently we went to Pokhara in a Tibetan camp with my good friend Rashna. And we stayed there for 2 weeks in a Tibetan school, teaching and playing with kids. And recently we organized a sports day at Godavari school where about 200 students, 200 kids from slum areas and those were suffering from incurable diseases like HIV/AIDS. And we organized a sports event for them. We had about 40 volunteers. And then we started a movement called Happiness for Life. And if anybody here is passionate enough to join us, then you may let us know. And we'll have some work for you as well. And okay, now that's all about me. I can't go any further. My application. Initially, I had no plans of applying to US or even Harvard. But as I saw more of education in Nepal's national universities, I changed my mind then. And the first step for any application is information. Information is very crucial. And those who get the information early can make the best use of it. My college counselor, we have a counselor, my college counselor, Vijay Raspanuka, was a fantastic person. I got access to early information, I took an early shot, and it worked. And when I was in 11th grade, people were talking about this thing called the SAT. By then, I had no idea what SAT even meant, and they told me it's a very difficult test. And that year, I was looking for ways to push myself. I was looking for ways to build myself. And when people started saying that it's a difficult test, I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. How hard can it be? And well, I did the SAT. I got a fairly decent score, and I never gave my SATs again. And there's one thing I'd like to say, especially in regard to the critical reading section. Since I gave my SAT only once, with minimal preparation, I may not be the person with good credentials to give suggestions, but still, I'll have something. For critical reading section, most of the students I see, they stress very hard upon the vocabulary list and the big words of the big book. I, for one, never paid much attention to the vocabulary part, because I have very good reasons for them. Most of the words that SAT uses are the words I've never seen before, the words which I'll never use again, and the words which I'll definitely forget after a week. So it was not worth preparing for. Instead, I've used most of my time on the passage-based reading section. Because reading, no matter how old I get, no matter where I go, reading and understanding can never be avoided. And when I prepared for SAT, I was preparing not just for the 5 hours of test, but for my life. And comprehending skills weighed more than the art of memorizing words. So, but it's not my intention to push you away from the vocabulary section, but I'm just saying that it might be better if you devoted much time on the other part, that is passage-based reading. Yeah, personal statement. I never had any traumatizing accidents in my life. I never had any life-changing incidents. So deciding upon a good essay was very tough. Deciding upon a good idea, it took a lot of time. I spent 2 months thinking about ideas, and in that period I wrote about 4 essays, but they didn't strike as very powerful. I had to reject them all. And one day I went to my counselor and he said, "You're just trying too hard. Before you sleep today, write for 20 minutes and bring whatever you've written." And that day I went home from a bus from Ratnapark to Bhaktapur. And that night I did write for 20 minutes. I talked about the public bus, which if you have ever traveled from Bhaktapur to Ratnapark, it's very, very miserable. I talked about the people I see in the bus. I talked about the words I would hear in the bus. And I talked about how the 2 years of traveling might have influenced my thoughts a little. And yes, that essay would later be my final essay. And there's only one person I ever showed my essay before submitting it. That is my guidance counselor. And he was very satisfied with it. And these days, I get a lot of requests from friends asking me to show this essay, and I choose not to, because whatever I wrote there, those were personal opinions, they were private thoughts, and I do not want the entire world looking for grammatical mistakes, scrutinizing and dissecting the ideas. So I choose to keep the essays for myself. I can give you a gist on what I wrote like, but I cannot give the exact words. Yeah, and then on October, I sent my application to Harvard. By September, I had no idea where I'd be applying to, but a little research told me that Harvard might be the best option because of 3 reasons. I was young, I was energetic, and I wanted to dream. I wanted to attempt big. And the second reason is, well, Harvard offers this program called Early Action instead of Early Decision. Well, before I go forward, I would like to know how many of you have attempted the application, submitted the application before? Could you please raise your hands? So none of us have filled the application in. Okay, right. There are 2 forms of application procedure. One is called regular decision, other is called early decision. In early decision, you apply early and you get the decision early. And in regular decision, you applied by January, you get the decision late in somewhere in March. And the thing about early decision is that if you are accepted, you are forced to go to that college. You can't have a voice. But Harvard offers a different program called early action. Like even if I am accepted, I have a choice in choosing other colleges. And I didn't want my freedom of choices to be restricted by applying to other colleges. So Harvard it was very flexible. I had a lot of freedom and applied to Harvard. And the third reason was I was in a very safe zone. I was still in high school. And I did not have that urgent necessity to get accepted like students doing the gap years had. I was in a safe zone. Even if I was rejected, I could again try again 1 year later. And I would not be in loss. So for these reasons, I applied to Harvard. And when I pressed the submit button, it was sort of experiment which I was very fond of. It was experiment which result would guide me for the next year. And but a few days later, after I submitted my application, then I revised my essay, my application, and it felt very powerful. I thought, well, maybe I have a shot. And then after a few days, an admission officer made me. She asked for a recommendation. And I went to my physics teacher and said, well, sir, this is important. Write me a recommendation and try not to make grammatical mistakes. And he did it. And I also talked to a friend, Nishan. He was very grateful. He was very helpful and wrote me a peer evaluation. And I'm very thankful for that. And I asked them both to submit a recommendation to my admission officer. And a few weeks later, I was called for an interview from an alumni interview in Nepal. And it was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever sat on. I was expecting generic questions like, why do I want to apply here and what are your interests? But no. One of the easier questions he asked was, is it right for a girl to be a prostitute? And that's one of the easier questions he asked. And well, I was very good at these things. I was good in argumentation and debates. And yeah, I presented an argument. And then he would present another scenario that would counter my argument. And I tried to desperately answer, then he would present another fact. You're supposed to get an interview, sort of with a debate, with him attacking me at every question, and I tried to desperately defend myself. By the end of the interview, I was exhausted with ideas, and I was fairly convinced that this interview would not in any way add positively to my application. I had ruined everything. And yeah, that was in thought. And people describe this moment between submission and results as a very tense moment. But I didn't feel any of that, because I had my exams then in October, and I was preparing for my exams as well. I paid very little attention to whatever happened to the application. I wouldn't care if I get accepted or rejected. And then one night in December first week, my admission officer made me saying that, well, I want to speak to you in person. Could you make it on 7 p.m. tomorrow? And 7 p.m. Was not a very fine time for me because of the load shedding. And I said, well, no. If you want 7 p.m., that's not the time I can arrange. We have load shedding here, I can only do that after 9. And fortunately, she was very helpful, and she arranged the time accordingly. And unlike the other interview I had, this one went pretty well. The interview with the admission officer, she was very friendly. And by the end of the interview, I was fairly certain, yes, I'll go to Harvard. And one night on December 13, I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I checked my mail. There was this acceptance letter waiting for me. And I said, well, yeah, I got it. And then I went back to sleep again because I was very tired that day. Back then, I didn't feel the need to celebrate or or be emotionally excited. Because it was not like I won a war or something, I just got into college. And people tell me that when I tell people that I go to Harvard, they're like, oh, it's like a dream come true. Well, no, not really. My dreams are much bigger. My dreams are much bigger, and getting into Harvard is just one of the many ways I'm taking to pursue those dreams. So I wasn't overly excited back then. But now, as I think of it, I'm ecstatic and I'm happy for whatever happened. And after that, it was Mark Zuckerberg who welcomed us to Harvard. And then I've been getting t-shirts, stickers, and a lot of things. And I'm in the online base, I make a lot of friends. And it's been very, very fun these days. Okay, everything I've said till now, I never did any of those things, any of the events, any of the social work I did, any of the participation I did, any of the learnings I did, just for the sake of college application. I wanted to, because I did them because I wanted to. I was restless, I wanted to work, I wanted to enjoy my work, I wanted intellectual stimulation, and these things provided me those pleasures I wanted. And okay, and if I had to sum up my suggestion in like a sentence, then it would be this sentence. If I had 8 hours to chop down the tree, I would spend 6 sharpening my axe. Because people think the only way to get into college is to create a flawless application. It's not so. The only way to succeed in application or anything is to build yourself as much as you can. Try to spend each day learning new ideas, discovering new adventures, meeting new people, talking to new people, and only then will you build yourself enough to get into a college or do anything else in life. And it's very important to spend the time before college application devoting to build yourself intellectual strength and personal skills. And another important, plan early and act early. One thing that distinguishes me from other applicants is that I applied early when I was still in high school, and it added to my benefit. Trust me, being early is always an advantage. Be it an interview, be it a team meeting, being early is always an advantage. Do not wait for people around you to begin. Start it yourself, and you'll get to it. Give your site early, do not wait for the last date, and when you have a submit application, do not do so at the deadline. Apply at least a month early before the deadline for a better chance. Make this your motto, plan early and act early. It will be very helpful. Get information and advice as much as possible. A lot of students make a mistake of not getting proper information on time. People do not know what are the materials required for application. They do not know when to take SAT. They do not know what is TOEFL, what TOEFL even means. This information is very essential, and you can get it from anywhere. Talk to your college counselor, talk to USEF officials, and talk to your admission officer. And it's the most important thing, getting information. And somebody once told me that advice is the only thing anyone in the world are willing to give for free at any amount. So get as much advice as possible from any source you may get, but you should be very careful in deciding which advice to follow and which not to follow. Because when I was in my 11th grade, there were people who were telling me that, advising me that I should not give my SAT early because it would be a waste of money. I wouldn't get anything more than 1,500. And when I applied for physics Olympiad, there were people telling me that an 11th grader had no way reaching the finals. And when I applied to Harvard, people were saying, well, good luck, you might get waitlisted. Yeah. So it's very, do not follow advices blindly. Think well, who is the person giving that advice? So the people who knew me very well, my friends, family, and all the people who knew me very well, they were very supportive, they were encouraging. And most of the negative suggestions I received, I've simply astonished by the randomness of the people who are making those comments. The people who have never met before, and they make comments to discoveries. And recently, someone introduced me to this site called College Confidential. How many of you use that? College Confidential, okay, yeah. And initially I thought, well, it was a good site with authentic information, but it was not. It's just a random bunch of people commenting on another random bunch of people. And yeah, if you need advice, don't talk to people you don't know. Don't talk to people on strangers on the internet. Talk to admission officers, talk to your counselor, talk to authentic person with authentic information. Do not trust strangers. And the one important aspect of this site, College Confidential, is that there are these threads called chance with threads. Have you used them? And if you, okay, what people do is that a prospective student, he writes about his achievements, he writes about accomplishments, and asks, would I get into this college? If I was a student with big achievements and big accomplishments, I wouldn't be looking for validation from random strangers to approve my application. I would be doing it myself. So get information, get advice, but be very careful in deciding which advice might work the best for you. Consider many options. Like last year, I met this person. He was my senior, and he was applying to US. And I asked him, yeah, where are you applying? And he said, well, MIT. And I asked, why? I want to do engineering, and it's the only place with good engineering. And like I asked, what if you don't accept it to MIT? And he said, well, apply to Caltech. And yeah, but as far as I know, he got into none of them. And yeah, we make this mistake that we limit our options by only considering the colleges with popular names. As students from economically challenged country, our priority should not be the ranking which college board website shows. Our priority should be financial aid. That is an important factor that may help decide which college to select. And yeah, I'm going to Harvard. Some of my friends might go to other colleges, but education and innovation do not restrict themselves on walls of Harvard, Cambridge, or let's say MIT. Wherever you go, you'll find ample opportunities to build yourself. You'll find great resources. You'll find great people. You'll meet great people. So it basically won't matter wherever you go. Wherever you go, we're just there for learning, and you can do that anywhere. So keep your options open. Consider all the options and decide well on which factor you should consider. But I think that the financial aid for most of the options. And recommendations. Well, I understand that most of the colleges here, most of the schools here, we do not have guidance counselors, and students are often forced to write their own recommendation. As much as possible, try to get recommendation from your teachers. And as much as possible, try to ask them not to write these typical recommendations like this person has excellent moral character and exceptional academics. These are general recommendations. Recommendations should be personal. Recommendations are helpful because colleges can see know what the teachers think of their students. And if all they can see is exceptional moral character and excellent academics, they're not going to be impressed. When I submitted my application, I had plenty of recommendations from teachers, and I never had the chance to see what they have written, but I think my physics teacher might have wrote about the things we used to talk in college canteen, and my language teacher might have talked about my first essay, but whatever they've written, I'm sure they might have been personal. They pointed out my strengths as well as my imperfections, and that makes a very frank recommendation. Relevant engagements and their extracurriculars. Okay, people should be engaged. You should be engaged all the time. You should take as much programs. You should be involved in programs. You should make use of resources around you. But before you get involved in anything, before you take a volunteering job or internship position, then ask yourself: are you doing this because you want to, or because you want to add it to your college CV? I have seen people who write books for the sole purpose of sending it to the college admission officer. And I wonder, like, when people do that, are they justifying their position as writers? If you have a music album, ask yourself if you're doing it for your passion of music, or are you simply doing it to send it as art supplement. And if your conscience gives you a reasonable answer, then you may feel free to do so. So only your engagement should reflect your personality. It should reflect your future plans. Do not be involved in things blindly. Do the things which you are passionate about, which you're interested in, and that will be better. Supplementary essays. If someone asks me what is the most difficult part of the application, I would say supplementary essays. Because unlike a personal essay, these essays require extensive research. They are different for each college, and it's the primary way how colleges measure your interest in them. So spend much time on supplementary essays. A personal statement, yeah, last but the most important of all. Many people have this misconception that writing a humorous personal essay or writing an absurd personal essay will impress the admission officer and you'll be taken in. People write funny essays and they expect the admission officer to read it, laugh at it and say that, well, this guy is funny, we should take them. Take him, yeah. But the most likely reaction to these essays is like the admission officer reads it. Well, this is funny. Tom and Jerry was funny, the movie Dictator was funny, Aladdin was funny, but no. A characteristic of a good personal essay is not the blatant misuse of humor and absurdities. A good personal essay is profound and reflects everything you have built yourself as so far. In my Harvard class Facebook page, we often talk about personal essays. And even the most sarcastic and most humorous of students, they write very serious essays. They basically talk about the things they have been doing and why they feel attached to the works they do. And none of them are funny or humorous. So now, when we decide on a personal essay, make it a topic which defines you completely. If someone picks up your essay on the road, they should be able to read it. They should be able to go with the person writing it. Yeah, the popular belief is that a college application, a successful college admission, is a product of strong financial background, humorous essay, lofty achievements, and recommendation of your personalities, 2400 insight is, well, it's not so, it's a myth. You don't need a good financial background to get a college admission. I never paid for my schools, I never paid to do my high school, and I'm not paying to do my bachelor's again, and I didn't pay to submit my application, so I never had a problem of money. And well, a humorous essay does not necessarily guarantee a good application. Lofty achievements, you don't have to be a gold medalist in Olympics. You don't have to be a US ambassador. Ambassador for some company. You don't have to get recommendations from presidents or anyone. Just be personal, do the things which you care about, get recommendations from people who you know very well, and have a decent science score. Yeah, but the reality is, that's popular. The reality is, love and engagement. You should work on things which you care about. You should have friend recommendations. You should have consistent academics. A decent site, you don't need 2400, you don't need even 2300. Anything over 16 is fine. A personal statement that reflects the real applicant. A relentless intellectual person. You should always keep moving. Every day of your gap year, every day of your high school, you should devote to learning new things and building yourself. And perseverance. Failure should not keep you from applying. And yeah, and that gives good application. Well, after I got accepted at Harvard, then I sort of retrospected the last 2 years of how I spent the last 2 years. And I find myself in a very, very strong position, because there was once a time when I had to run 10 minutes to go to a cyber to use the internet. And there is still today, I often stay out in the streets like 10 p.m. for several hours to use unsecured Wi-Fi because I don't have a reliable internet at my home. But nonetheless, I felt that I'm in a very strong position with a great network, with international experience, with international connections. And I'm very happy about it. And the most important thing of this is on all of my own. Those of you who have socially active families, skilled siblings, I consider yourself very fortunate because there's a lot you can learn from them. For me, it was really good. My parents have no idea what Harvard is, or what college application is like. And it was difficult for me. I had to carve my own path, I had to set my own goals, I had to fetch my own resources. And when you plan big, when you start working big and dreaming big, then money always appears to be a problem. But now as I look at it, help and resources will be available all the time. You just have to reach for them. As I said earlier, I never paid for my schooling. I didn't pay for high school. I didn't pay to send application. I'm not paying for the next 4 years of bachelor's. So where on earth did I have any problems of money? I never had any problem with money. So there will always be help and resources available. And one thing I can tell you is that you can ask people to help you and support you, but you can never expect them to lead you to glory. The initiation should come from yourself, and only if, when you start, will people take your back, will they support you. And it matters not like, it does not matter where you go. Things are changing every year. Like last year was different. Maybe 30 years before, college application was easier. Maybe it was handwriting that mattered then, 30 years back. Things today are different than things before, and things will definitely be different a year later. The resources around you will get sophisticated, and there will be more innovations coming. The resources around you become developed, and students find themselves in a very competitive era where the supreme deeds of today becomes insignificant tomorrow by just a year, by mere passes of time. So as students take gap years, as students wait for another time, things get more competitive. And it's better if you act early and apply early to a good college. College application should not be taken as a mere application. It's a process. It's a process that provides students incentives to push themselves. Through college application, you should push yourself to limits. You should open your mind to fantastic ideas. You should open your minds to great information, great pieces of information. You should push yourself, and you should make it a lifelong learning process. It should not be taken as just a mere application. It's a process that enables you to learn for a lifetime. And if you, after this college application, if you can express yourself in words, and when people read your words, if they are able to admire you and respect you, that will become a successful application. So that is all I have to say on my part. Build yourself. The only good way to get into a good college is building yourself as much as possible. And if you develop such abilities in the spirit of until the application, then you'll be fine to get into a college. So that is all I have to say. I'll take questions now. So yeah, I'm fine. Stretch yourself, and if you have any questions, yeah.
Actually, how are you going to manage MSc and graduate school?
Okay, yeah. Like the college I applied to Harvard is very rich, with the richest university. And the financial aid I'm receiving, it covers almost everything. I have allowance, travel allowance, I have medical expenses, and I have personal expenses as well. So they're helping me in a lot of things. So travel expenses will not be a problem. So when you apply, do not just go for names. Apply to college which gives a strong financial aid. Or do not follow ranks, apply for financial aid.
And though you didn't take a gap year, what's your view on taking gap year?
Sorry?
What's your view on taking
Gap year, okay. Either way, gap year works either way. If you make the best use of gap year, if you, as I said, if you build yourself properly in gap year, it can be to your advantage. Because like for me, I'm going there without gap year, it will be a big problem adjusting me to a new lifestyle. Because in gap year, you can be a part of a lot of adventures. You can build yourself intellectually, you can be more mature. And that will be helpful. But for me, I'm going continuously. I'm not taking a break. That will be a certain level of disadvantage on my part as well. So gap year can be used in both ways. But whatever you do, you should try to, if you take a gap year, make the best use of it.
So
What's your major on major of bachelor?
My major is good. I'm not decided yet. We all do lots of courses, and I plan to take a lot of subjects. I'm interested in economics as well, in government. I also plan to do theory. But my primary interests are in computers and physics, as I said. The best thing about computers and physics is the intellectual stimulation they provide. They can absorb your entire consciousness, and they can keep you awake for days thinking about a complex algorithm. And it's very fun to be in that state of elevated mental activity. So I'm basically interested in physics and mathematics, but I'll also take many courses on economics, government, music, art, languages. Okay, there's no way I can. How do I explain my dreams? Well, I want to be that person. Just to summarize in one sentence, I want to be that person who stays silent. Who stays silent, but when I speak, everyone else stops. Yeah, I want to be that person. I stay quiet, but when I speak, I blow people's mind off.
Why do you expect from the Harvard University?
Well, except the degree they provide, which all the colleges provide, I'm expecting influence from my peers. We take the best. Harvard takes some of the brightest minds of the generation. I'm expecting to learn a lot of them. Because I can get a degree from any place, but the best thing about Harvard is the tradition of innovation, the tradition of excellence. So I want to be influenced by the environment, by the whole community with MIT next door. So I want that intellectual influence.
Do you think that A-level influence your application process?
Well, it doesn't. Well, it doesn't. What A-levels might do is that the courses which other students follow around the world, and A-levels is much similar. So when people apply, they are almost on a similar level, intellectual level. But when people do plus two syllabus, it doesn't match with all syllabuses. So there might be a problem with changing your grades to grades that we submit grades A, B, and changing you have percentage, we have GPA. So that changing that thing could be a problem. But no, a plus two student has as better chance of getting in as A-level student. But one thing A-level does is like we have a lot of free time. In our high school, we get to be involved in a lot of things. That's helpful. But plus two, you have to study a lot. There's a lot to study. There's a lot to learn, and most of the time is spent on classes and with homeworks. So in terms of application, there is no difference.
In East Olympic in Denmark, how is it difficult for you?
Getting selected from Nepal is more difficult. Anyone can do that. But international is difficult because what we lack in our country is experimental science. Even A-levels or even plus two, we don't have good background in experiment. We're never taught how to use telescopes. We're never taught how to use lasers. And then we have to work on these things, and it's difficult to deal with experimental students. So that's the reason why we're not getting very good performance. I got honorable mention. I could do better, but yeah, maybe the reason is experimental science. The reason behind our poor performance.
And how you manage handling those all kind of questions in an exam?
On examinations, well, thank you very much. As I said, I'm very restless. And I told you that if you are studying the subjects which you very care about, then learning them and getting good grades is not a problem. So for me, getting A or getting A star was never a big problem. My primary concern was never to get be the top in the class or to have excellent grades or have perfect score and everything. My concern was to explore new things. I spent most of my time, most of my classroom time working on big things. What's there in the textbook? I don't know, but I can do that. So, yeah, I never paid much attention to academics because they were things I loved a lot and I could do well in the school. An A-level system, they provided me a lot of time because we have a lot of leisure periods and we don't have that stress in academics. So maybe
Actually, the question that I asked in the final exam, how much difficult was that on the syllabus you studying the A-levels?
the final exams in the Olympiad.
Yes.
It's difficult. It's still difficult because
Yeah,
which course are you taking? Plus 2 or A-levels?
A-level computers.
Okay, fine, thank you. Because what we have in A-levels, our science is analytical, our physics is analytical. We analyze graphs. We try to explain things with language. But what real physics demand is extensive use of mathematics, and that is difficult. So if you're planning to go to Physics Olympiad, the final round, maybe the best thing you should do is study extensive mathematics. You should. It's difficult even for A-level student.
It's great to be here, Pradeep. My question is, honestly speaking, I have zero concept about SAT. I'm eager to know it. How long would it take me to be learned man in SAT and about Harvard? And my another question is, people like who are preparing for SAT usually ask me for volunteer cards. That was made it at the SAT prepared students.
Do you say volunteer cards?
Yes, they were frequently asking me to provide me that volunteer cards, as I'm affiliated to LEO, affiliated to Smart Club and other organizations. But that they made it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For the first question, what time does it take to prepare for SAT? I'm not sure. I did it in 2 weeks because I had a pretty strong background in writings and mathematics. So it depends. Some people spend a whole year doing SAT, some people do 1 year. So it totally depends on how much time you can give every day. So if you, as an estimation, if you work for about 3 hours per day, 1 month must be sufficient. And USEF has this great demo SAT tests. Take those tests. It will be helpful to make a clear assessment of which level you're in. So it depends, like maybe a month to be fairly acquainted with the SAT to get a decent score. And regarding the second question, the volunteer card, yeah, colleges look for engagements, your involvement in things beyond the curriculum, beyond academics. And students take to, instead of really participating in those things, people tend to take a shortcut approach. They collect certificates and they collect recommendations. People think it's helpful, but I think it's not. Because participation and involvement is more important than collecting certificates. Because when I applied, I never sent a single certificate. Most of the things I did, I never mentioned in the application. People look for ways to extend, make a CV look big. But when I applied, I only mentioned a very few activities which I really cared about. So the reason people ask for volunteer cards is to collect certificates, recommendations, and to show that they are really important things, but it's not a very honest way of applying. Final transcript. Okay. When I applied, I didn't have any grades. I did not have any official grades when I applied. I applied with no grades. And my final transcript will be published on mid-August, August 15th or something. So I'll be there. I'll be flying to US before my grades even arrive. So is that all? Any more questions?
Can you share with us your daily routine before doing SAT?
Before doing SAT?
Yeah, how you use it in the day, because it needs more time to prepare. But you told me that you told us that you didn't need any much time because you had the good academics and good background for writing and mathematics. But then again, we would like to know about how your day went.
Okay. When I was giving my SATs, I was having exam break. I just had finished my second terminal examination. We were in a kind of break, and USEF was very far from me. I live in October, and coming here takes a lot of time. So what I did was I took a book from my college. There's a book from College Board. It's blue green colored book, is the best last resource, let me tell you. People often switch between notebooks, between Barron's and Peterson's, and they take a lot of help online, but the blue book is the best book. And I took that book, and there were 10 sets of questions there, and every day for about 1 week, every day I would do one question, one set. And that helped me, that I did everything. I did one set per day. And I took one demo test myself, a week before my SATs.
And what are the applicants will go SAT scores are apparently same as results and parts. Is it true in your opinion?
I'm not sure about that. I never worked in the admissions office. But I think it's not true, despite popular rumors. Because like in my batch, Harvard batch, there are students with surprisingly low SATs as well. So if that was true, maybe they wouldn't have been accepted. But there are people with low SAT grades as well. And the students with 2400 are even rejected a lot of times. Many students with 2400 are rejected. And there are people with low SATs. So maybe SATs is not the only pointer, not the only factor that influences admission. Maybe it's on the personal statement or your involvement or your recommendations that main key lies.
So what was your SAT score?
My SAT score was fairly decent and quite competitive. Like I'm not sure if I should mention the exact score, because if I do, I'll be setting a benchmark. I'll be unintentionally setting a benchmark for future applicants, and they will desperately try to meet that. I had a very decent score. I choose not to disclose the exact numbers. Okay, yeah. What I did with United Nations and USEF, but have you heard of this thing called MDZ, Millennium Development Goals? What is it like? UN every year sets this, every 15 years they set these goals to achieve for countries. And Nepal is given its own set of goals, other countries given its own set of goals, and the countries are expected to meet that goals in the period of 15 years. And the Millennium Development Goal that was implemented in 2000 will be over in 2015. And I was involved in helping to draft Nepal's suggestions for new MDZ goals. And with UNICEF, I've been in their dramas, in a lot of I've been a radio artist with them, with UNICEF. So that's it.
What do you think was the special part of your analysis?
My special part? I would say it's the balance I created between social ventures and technical abilities. I'm a very technical guy. I spend hours on computers, I spend hours on mathematics, I spend hours on equations, but at the same time I travel, I work with people, I work with kids, and I care about those things. And if you ask me what I'm interested in social entrepreneurship with technology. I'm sort of trying to find an intersection between social entrepreneurship and technological development. Maybe that's the reason. Social balance between academics, social venture, and technical expertise. And maybe the fact that I applied early when I was still studying, that was so, proactive, that may have helped.
Did you send any art supplement to Harvard?
I'm not a very good musician. I didn't send any. Though I'd like to play flute, I'm not a very good flute player. But what I did send was, there was a debate paper me and my friends wrote on. There's this topic called unilateral military action is justifiable to prevent nuclear proliferation. So basically what it said was the Western countries had a right to attack on North Korea and Iran simply because they were developing nuclear weapons. And our team, we took the negative side. And we were saying that, well, yeah, North Korea and Iran should have a right to develop nuclear weapons. It was just a debate, and it was a very controversial debate, very powerful. And saying the debate was a risk, because when a US official reads that paper, they'll call me a traitor to US sovereignty. And I said that it was a very long debate, about 15 pages, and I'm not sure if the admission office even read it, but I had said that debate, and I'm not sure if it helped my application.
is that considered to art supplement?
Yeah, art supplement doesn't necessarily mean paintings and musical performances. You can also send scholarly articles, your publications, and whatever you've been doing. So it includes a lot of things.
How will you see yourself after 5 years?
I'm not sure how I will see myself. Well, they tell me, like, I was reading this blog on a magazine. They tell me that when people enter their freshman year, they are very excited. They're very excited on changing the world. But when they're at the senior year, the whole excitement gets evaporated. They're busy working for examinations. So I'm not sure where I'll see myself. Maybe after 5 years, I'll be out of my college, and maybe I'll be working on a new startup project, on a new technological startup. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. I have no intentions of working for a corporation. I want to begin. Whatever I do, I'll do on my own. So maybe I'll be starting, maybe initiating myself. I'll return back to Nepal, that's for sure. After bachelor's, I'll return back to Nepal. I'll spend some years here, and then I'll go for master's, if I plan to do master's. And yeah, maybe I'll be creating my own initiative.
What do you think? What made you to get into Harvard?
As I answered this question, it was basically, perhaps it was my balance I made between time management with grades and with social involvement and technical things. Maybe it was a balance that did it. I'm sure it was not interview. I'm very sure about that. Maybe it was personal essay because it was very different than normal essays, normal personal essays. So I wouldn't know.
Let me ask a foolish question.
No question is foolish because I'm answer for that.
What is the difference in 3-1 University in Nepal and difference between Harvard and 3-1 University?
Well, the first difference is they don't provide medical expenses, they don't provide air tickets. And maybe because in Harvard, a lot of things are well governed. When a student cheats in examination, it creates a massive scandal. Students are given examinations to take to their homes. They can use the internet, but what they're not allowed to do is ask their friends or ask their teachers. And if anybody is found to do so, it causes a massive scandal. So there is this strict governance there. And universities outside of US, they are very responsible to our students. Well, I was talking to this alumni yesterday, and he told me that the first week he went there, he had this problem on lymph glands and thyroid glands, and he was hospitalized for like a week, with the cost being $1,200 per day. It's a very massive cost, $1,200 per day in hospital. But no one even cared about money. The university bared all the expenses. Universities care about the students. And maybe that's the reason. And another difference is that we do not, the college I'm going to, Harvard, students are encouraged to diversify themselves. We are encouraged to take arts, we are encouraged to take history, we are made to learn new languages. But here, if you go for physics, you are doing physics for 4 years. That's the BSc program. So students limit themselves to one sector. They tend to get specialization in 4 years in one sector, while the US colleges, most of the US colleges, they tend to diversify themselves. And then specialize later. So maybe those are there's a long list we could talk about that one day, but for now that's it.
We have time for 1 or 2 questions.
What's your passion?
My passion? Well, until a few months ago, I thought the only thing I could do is use computer and solve mathematics. But now, I think maybe I can also do music. I'm playing flute. I'm learning new languages. I'm learning new sports. But still, my passion hasn't changed. Maybe, as I said, it's a social entrepreneurship with technology, with science and physics. So that's my passion, technology. That's for now.
Any final words of wisdom?
Final words of wisdom? Well, let me see. Okay. When you go home today, with this poem, from Rudyard Kipling. It's called If, one of my favorite poems. And if this has inspired you, this poem certainly will. Read this poem very well, read every word, read every line, you'll be inspired for the rest of your life. And let me know what you think of it. This is my email address, this is my Facebook profile. Let me know what you think about that poem.